everybody. My name is Malik Forte, and I'm wearing sunglasses indoors. Not typically my style, but they're giving them out for free here at the Blizzard Arena, and I look exponentially cooler in these, so I thought, why not? But anyways, guys, it is week 4 of stage 3 here at the Overwatch League, and things have been insane so far already. We've had tons of upsets, so many matches that have gone the distance, and this week is tracking to be no different. We're starting off today with a matchup between the Shanghai Dragons and the Boston Uprising. These are two teams on opposite sides of the spectrum in terms of stage 3. The Boston Uprising, so far, have not lost any matches. They're undefeated. And the Shanghai Dragons, they're still searching for their first W. So how crazy would it be if the Dragons got their first W and gave the Boston Uprising their first loss? Anything is possible here at the Overwatch League. I would say that the Blizzard Arena right now is pretty biased towards the Shanghai Dragons. We got a lot of Shanghai Dragons fans here. So, you know what? I think it'll be wise if we not waste any more time and get this payload moving. You guys like my segment?
Hello, all you beautiful people. Welcome back. It's Buggy here at the desk. I missed you last week, but today I'm joined by some good buddies. We've got Bren, we've got Sideshow, and we've got three games coming in here. Week 4 of stage 3.
We do. We've got a fantastic game in the middle as well with the hometown Valiant taking on the Houston Outlaws, and we start, as Malik was saying, with the unbeaten Boston Uprising right now.
I like it. Let's go ahead and jump right into the schedule. I was going to overhype these matches, but really I think the last one is going to be closer than you think. The Fuel versus the Mayhem, but really all eyes are on that 6 o'clock.
They really are. The LA Valiant looking really good, but they were dealt their first loss. Can Boston Uprising get their first loss today? I don't really know, but we'll see.
Let's take a look at the overall standings. Brad, Boston jumping all the way up to that number 2 spot.
Yeah, what an incredible squad. Definitely trying to contest New York at that number 1 spot. It's going to be a bit tough, and they're sitting on 23 wins at the moment, but we'll see what they can do as they move later into the season.
And here in the stage 3 standings, Boston actually does have the lead over New York XL. They also have a match lead over the Valiant, 6-0, perfect so far, and they're going up against the Shanghai Dragons today, who have not won a match quite yet. So let's start right here with this Boston lineup. They're 6-0. They're perfect throughout stage 3. They're number 2 in the overall standings. How good is this team right now?
Let's just start with the fact that at the beginning of the season, everyone was coming into this expecting Boston to be quite frankly awful, because it was no names, right? Everyone was expecting it, but this is a squad, the true underdog story. They've come out from absolutely nowhere, left hooks coming out onto these strong teams, and that nobody was expecting it in the slightest. And it is honestly an incredible storyline that we're witnessing here. The fact that they are now contesting with New York as the best team in the league, it's honestly fantastic.
Yes, real credit to their coaching staff that they've been able to put their players in such a great position, and they now have an opportunity to go undefeated in stage 3. No team has been able to do this throughout Overwatch League. NYXL dropped a match in stage 1, dropped a match in stage 2, and look at the games that Boston Uprising have got left. These are all very winnable. Boston Uprising would be favorites in each of these matches. Having said that, the game against the Valiant, game against the Gladiators, with how close their games have been, it's perhaps a little unlikely they'll be able to go the full distance undefeated, but I think they can do it.
Who do you think's the stronger challenger there, Valiant or Gladiators in the final week?
I think for Boston, they'll struggle more with the Gladiators, actually, because Fisher's aggression kind of puts them off their game a little.
All right, let's take a moment and just look at this Boston squad, and we talk about their greatest asset as a squad right now. Is it an individual? What is it, Brent?
So it's super easy, right, to look at just one individual player, and that player being Striker, because we go on about him all the bloody time, about how good this one player is, how he's potentially the best tracer in the league. But honestly, it is a team effort, and we've got some great clips to really show as well, and really prove why the squad is so good. It is a whole team effort. All the tanks and all the supports are so good at this slow style of dive. It's very methodical and almost like a hive mind of bees. They just really tend to dive onto a singular target. And we don't really see it out of any other team, with maybe the exception of New York XL. London had some good showings from it recently, but Boston are really, what's so surprising is they're the first team to play at such a high level like this, and you can just, I honestly do love watching Boston.
I love watching bees as well.
I love watching bees as well, but I would describe Boston as maybe African bees, you know?
Yeah,
they're very aggressive.
Killer
Like,
bee.
Stinging you till you die.
Killer bees, surely.
Exactly, they sting you till you die, and then that's just the way Boston Boston work.
All right, Shanghai Dragons, let's talk about this squad. Last time they matched up against Boston, well, it only happened once, but it was a blowout. It was 0-4, and the Dragons played with their all-Chinese lineup, minus Dia, who was out of the country. Today, they've got their new pieces in. They've got Otto, they've got Gaguri. Let's talk a little bit about their chances today. Can they upset Boston and stop this perfect run in Stage 3, Josh?
Okay, that to me is a bit of a crazy question because it's an undefeated team going against a team without any wins at the moment. But what's important is to focus on how Shanghai Dragons look, because we sound like a broken record, I'm sure, but they are improving. The Shanghai Dragons with their new players do look a lot better than the Shanghai Dragons of old. Having said that, they're improving at kind of a steady rate, and yet the rest of the league around them, it seems to be improving even faster. So despite the fact that Shanghai Dragons with Giguri, with Fearless, with Addo, with Damon as well, do look like a better team, they are still languishing. They are still the worst team in the league, and it's becoming difficult, I think, to see when they'll be able to get that win.
So I do believe that they are eventually going to get a win. The question mark is just when. It's most likely going to be probably the later stages. I don't want to take anything away from the Shanghai Dragons squad because, like you said, broken record. They are improving each week. Coming into it, it's always nice to see. But you are completely correct in the fact that other teams are improving alongside them just at a faster rate. So, I mean, Josh, when do you think they're going to be getting this first win?
I think the thing is, as you look towards Stage 4, there's a couple of teams slumping. Dallas Fuel as well, who we'll see later on in the day. Maybe they'll be able to get a win over them there. But at any point in the Overwatch League, weird things happen. So a team that underestimates them, that doesn't plan accordingly, that gets caught off by their aggression, can certainly drop maps. We've already seen that. At some point is likely to drop a match. So when's it going to be? Nobody knows, but it's probably going to happen at some point, and you don't want to miss it when it does.
Today we'll find out. Is Boston sleeping? Are you guys ready to get this match started? Make some noise as we welcome our first team to the stage. It's the Shanghai Dragons. Altering looks to be in the lineup to start things off here today for the Dragons. Behind them, though, you got one of the most famous divas in the game. And if you look at their wins from Week 3, you got to give big props to Gaguri and what she was able to do on Blizzard World.
Absolutely. Clutch performances coming out from Gaguri alongside the rest of the team because she really did manage to clutch multiple moments in their matches with these big self-destruct diva bombs, and that's one of the more pivotal moments that you can have as a diva player. And it's honestly it is very promising because really what you need to be a solid team is the off-tank role to be very consistent, be able to pull out those clutch performances. I mean, we look at Philadelphia Fusion way earlier in the season. How many games did they win because of Poco's big bombs?
Sure.
It's a big metric. And it's a big factor that we need to consider.
I think though, when watching Giguri, you can tell the split between the front line and the back line. She does tend to be very passive and try and keep the supports alive for the Shanghai Dragons, and that leaves Fearless a bit on his own. So I would perhaps prefer it if they were just going all out aggressive. Try and prop up Addo's blades, try and prop up the aggressive nature of your team, see if you can catch your opponents off guard and just play at the highest tempo possible.
Highest tempo possible against a very tough opponent today. We'll see what this starting six can do against our next squad. Please give it up for the Boston Uprising. Out comes Kellix, and you can see this Boston squad enters today's match perfect, 6-0 here in Stage 3.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the future schedule like we did earlier, it's looking likely that they may be able to really be the first team to be undefeated in a stage. Now, they do have tough opponents coming up, and they do need to prep and work hard, but that's one thing that this team has never really slacked on. They've always been grinding hard, they've always been hard-working, and it's really wonderful to see all of that hard work coming to fruition now as a leading essentially the scoreboards and the stage standings here coming into these this season.
If you're a Boston Uprising fan, you've kind of watched the evolution of this squad. We talked about their previous DPS players. Now it seems Striker's taken on that powerhouse role. Gamsu was a league MVP discussion player for a while here. Who is the most important piece to their game right now here in Stage 3? Is it Mistakes, the new guy in the lineup?
No, I don't think it is. I think, well, I mean, they don't have anybody to replace Mistakes with if he goes missing. You got to say that. But for me, Mistakes has come into this team and fulfilled a role and is going to develop as a player. His individual talent is starting to get there, but the rest of the team at the moment is kind of propping him up. If they lose Striker, I think that's the biggest issue for them. He's the real playmaker.
Keep your eyes on that. Tracer, Striker, one of the best in the league, looking to show off today. Let's get this match started right now. It's Shanghai, it's Boston, and to bring you the action, we got Uber and Mr. X.
Thank you very much, Chris in the desk, and hello, Blizzard Esports Arena. It's week 4, and we're going to jump straight into it here with potentially on paper, Matt, a bit of a mismatch.
Yes, you have Boston right now, who looks like the best team in Stage 3. Shanghai still winless. So you look at this match on paper, looks like it probably won't be that close, but you never know. Shanghai has been looking better as of late. I do think, you know, they're going to have a tough task in front of them, right? I mean, Striker, one of the best tracers in the league, phenomenal tanks on the side of the Boston Uprising as well. It's a huge mountain to climb here for Shanghai.
No doubt about it. I mean, we're heading now into the part of the stage where the Dragons definitely have to match up against those top, top teams. We'll look at top 4, top 5 teams in the next few games. So that's a struggle for them. They kind of had quite a lot of opportunities to take matches away against the Fuel, against, the Mayhem at some point. There were some teams where they were able to challenge. I was really happy with them against the Mayhem on multiple levels. I think obviously their tank play is looking really good. Their dive, that aggression, the lethality we've been hoping the Dragons have been developing is kind of there, but we haven't been seeing them do a great job of follow-up on the first couple of kills in their fights.
I mean, that Mayhem series with the Dragons could have easily been a 5th game if you didn't have Logix play phenomenal on the defensive side. Thanks, Mr. Logix. As I think the Dragons have looked better as of late. Mitch, they just needed to figure out a way to keep Altering and Free Feel alive. They always seem to be the first ones dead at the beginning of these fights, regardless of, where the tanks are positioned or whatnot. So I think if you keep those two players up for a little bit longer, I think, you've seen some nice things from Otto when he plays Genji. You've seen Dia, pretty much their standout, I guess, through all of Season 1 thus far, do a nice job.
And something, I guess, about Free Feel that's really interesting, I saw these statistics on Reddit, so big shout out to the content creators that sort of bring these numbers and graphics up for us, is that Free Feel actually has the lowest percentage of transcendences used outside of team fights.
Which is weird.
League, which is weird, which obviously means that he's either using them in team fights or, wait for it, not at all. Quite often he's dead before he gets the chance to use them, which does impact this stat a little bit.
Yeah, that's my thing. I think he uses it so early in fights that you're going to use it in fights, because most likely it's like full resets for Shanghai where he's alive and then you're actually able to use it. You never see like the middle of a fight like another team, right? Like where, let's take Boston for example, right? Like, Neko is able to charge his Transcendence during a fight, able to put down enough damage, then use it during that fight. It seems like for Shanghai, it's a full team reset and you wipe, and then it's like, oh, well, great, we have Transcendence. Let's use Transcendence to push on through.
Let's have a look at some of the tank play we can expect to see this series, especially one of my favorite off-tanks in the Overwatch League. It's Note. We've got some numbers here, Matt, from him that sort of just kind of describe, we're not going to look at them? Okay, fine, we'll come back to them later. That is something we prepared earlier, and we'll come back to it because I think he's the kind of player that flies under the radar a lot, literally sometimes.
There's no proof you prepared it because we never saw it.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think you could be
at the back making
you
it
could
now.
be lying to all of us.
People could have thought that I'd come in early to prepare stuff, or they could just think I'm bluffing. Which one is it?
Which, I mean, clearly we have the proof now that you're bluffing. I mean, it's not really too much of an argument.
No, maybe I just got debated, man. Maybe that's what happened, Queuing up something that's not actually there. Anyway, let's jump in. The Shanghai Dragons will be starting on the attacking side. Look for Dia on this Widowmaker to make those crucial early picks, but he'll be battling it out 1-to-1 with Mistakes in the Widow duel.
We've seen some up and down things from Mistakes in terms of his Widowmaker play. I think, though, these next few matches, you'll be able to really fine-tune his play as he gets that first pick on a Dia with a headshot. Just refine the play with Mistakes and get ready for the playoffs. I think it's interesting if Boston goes in with that #1 seed. Remind, with the playoff change, they'll be able to pick who they play. So, interesting who they would select. Yeah,
I like that. I like that they did that back in the AFS days. As much as I sound like a hipster for saying it. So Dia got resurrected. Now he can go back into this fight against Mistakes. The problem is he doesn't quite know where Mistakes is. Now he does. He sees him peek out on the low side. Mistakes has been pocketed where Dia, not so much. Ultron kind of has to spread some healing around the rest of his compatriots. As the Dragons are taking significant poke damage, trying to approach him. Mistakes. He's 2-0 in the Widow battle.
They have done a nice job here, the Dragons, of creating some space for Dia, but he's not able to get that first pick. And then they actually did a nice job forcing them back into that area with the Mega Health Pack. Altering ends up using his Valkyrie during this, and even with Valkyrie, they're not able to provide enough healing to keep everybody up. Calyx will bring Gamsu back up, so this will be a full-strength Boston team who holds on to both support ults during that fight.
So there was that early pick. It was Gegari who managed to find her way in and remove Gamsu, who was resurrected later on. But you notice Mistakes' positioning was so aggressive. He was actually playing on the forward side of this little building we're looking at on the Widow. He flanked around. So obviously with the flankers out of the picture on the side of the Dragons, Mistakes felt comfortable enough to get aggressive on that Widow and set up with those positions just to really punish in the late stages of the fight. Again, he'll be battling it out with Dia on that first pick.
Like you mentioned with Freefield using his Transcendence, he's getting very close to it now. He's so split up on the rest of the team though. You see him there and
That is so risky.
Mistakes, this side says, okay, so Fearless is going to go challenge Mistakes all the way in the back. They'll just be able to pocket him on through this. So you can see they're putting a lot of emphasis on the Widowmaker, but it's going to be 2 kills. They actually get a pulse bomb on a Striker that takes him out.
And Fearless has done a great job of getting aggressive towards Mistakes, creating space. That's what we talk about when we say creating space. He takes the Widow out of the fight. Ardo wins the 1v1 Tracer battle with a pulse bomb, but now Mistakes are coming back in. And he's found 2 kills. Freefield is down, but brought back to life, and there's 4 players here for the Boston Uprising in the vicinity of the point. Gamsu drops to Freefield, comes back to life with a vengeance. And I like this slow role play from the Dragons. It's worked out well, and then it all started, Matt, with the Primal Rage from Fearless, getting Mistakes out of the picture early.
Yeah, they're able to just push him back so far as Mistakes will use the Infer Sight right now just to give some vision. Then he'll switch up, so you don't want to play Widowmaker on the second stage. This is where we've seen Shanghai struggle. They've been good at taking point A, but remember how many times we see them try and push in here and they just get stuck up on the high ground. So Dia will go to McCree. They have trouble dealing with a lot of pressure here as they attack point B.
On the to-do list for the Dragons is to get that first pick and then win the fight as a result. You know, snowball out of control and actually exercise the man advantage that you have. In the past, they kind of just sit back after a first pick, and the fight tends to equalize from opposition picks. So Neko there finds Freefield. Ardo now, somewhat of a compromising position, but you can see he's of the caliber to challenge a player like Striker, as we saw in that last fight. He'll back out now and try and find a better way to get in.
There'll be a self-destruct from Geguri who goes over the top and actually takes out Mistakes, and they get a pulse bomb on Gamsu, so that's going to be 2 players dead for Boston. Let's see though, Shanghai can take advantage of this. It'll be Fearless who uses Primal Rage. Need to put pressure on the point.
Mistakes now low on the point. You can see Ardo was hoping just to try and get rid of a little bit of that health, and Mistakes can't quite get away, or it seems that he can. The defense matrix from Note was used to keep him alive much longer than he otherwise had any business to. And then Striker can come in, he can find altering. Now Boston are starting to push out a little bit more. It's almost as if Boston have allowed Shanghai to play their own pace a little bit here though, Matt, and almost get towards that point B.
I think what went wrong there for Shanghai is that their supports were so far back. They were backed by the choke. If they were a little bit closer, I mean, Fearless has to use his leap to go all the way from the point, basically back to the choke, like by the arches. By the time he gets there, both of his supports are dead, and then he ends up dying as well. If the supports would have played a little bit closer, right? You know, we're almost like where that Mega Health Pack is, to the left if you're attacking. They're in that kind of vicinity, I think you would have been able to appeal for them a little bit better. Then you may have been able to keep that pressure on the point.
So now it's a poke game for Mistakes until he knows it's time to go in with the Blade. And it might be now, really. Freefield is close to a Transcendence, but doesn't quite have it yet. A Dragon Blade will be quite devastating, but the Shanghai Dragons will build into that Keys and Yada ultimate in a moment.
They use Valkyrie to try and fade out a support ult. Now it's going to be Gamsu who dives in deep. You actually had Transcendence used, but you had lost altering. So you use the Transcendence, your Mercy is dead. Not much you can do with that.
Mistakes is down, and he had the Dragon Blade that could have punished the now lack of Transcendence on the side of the Shanghai Dragons, but he's removed by Geguri's self-destruct, yet brought back to life by Kelex on that Mercy. So Boston are now at full strength, and with the ability to decimate the Dragons if they try and approach.
You saw it there for a split second though, it was just Gamsu's positioning in the choke.
Oh, I love that. Still the health pack from Ardo.
Yeah, Otto's got an orb though here, so should be able to just heal up for an extended period. But with Gamsu in the choke, Freefield was stuck outside, couldn't heal anybody up inside. So what that does is it forces the tanks who are trying to gain that space and positioning so Dia and the rest of the team can work on through. It forces them to go all the way back. That's why you don't see any progress being made forward by Shanghai.
Dia has a Deadeye here, which may or may not really amount to anything. It's kind of a all or nothing ultimate in many of these fights, Matt. Fearless is going to flank around the back. He's going to try and access Note and Neko, and you can see they've already dived deep here into these tunnels. Fearless is already down to half health. He take about 500 damage very early, and Mistakes has to get away because he can't do much about that. Dia's in trouble. He went for the Deadeye and he got focused down immediately, pushed back outside the complex. And for the Dragons, it might be a bit of folly to try and continue with the fight as things are now. Mistakes might just end it with a Blade here if he fancies.
The Dragons are so split, Mitch. You know, they have Fearless on the point with both supports. And that leaves Mistakes to take out Dia and Geguri in the back line.
Brutal. Savage. Wrecked.
She'll have to jump off so she can get a new mech coming back in, but extremely split off there. And they leave Fearless to get onto the point. And all of this is Kellick's just pocketing Neko. They get him weak and they force him back. At that point, Gamsu and Mistakes had already done their damage all the way in the back line. That they have to pull out. Dia will play 76 here, so a little bit more mobility on the hero here to be able to put down some consistent damage.
It definitely feels sometimes like a little bit of a cop-out with players switching to the 76. Again, he's not as specialized as other DPS players, and he can put down a consistent damage, but he's easily blocked by defense matrices, by bubbles and all the like. Now he gets dived on here. He's got mobility, Dia, sure enough, and self-healing, but how long can he last through this damage, man? Everyone's getting shoved off the Bardic field, and yeah, the blade's going to be brought in now. Free feel, good time on the Transcendence. That might allow this fight to turn around. They've brought Dia back to life. Adu's already in the back line, and he can tickle the point to draw Boston away from the opening. This is a good setup now. Shanghai have to capitalize immediately.
You do have Neko with the Transcendence who's coming off spawn here for Boston. So Gamsu is using Primal Rage. He actually takes out Free Feel. Altering just used the res on the Dia, so won't have that res for a little bit. Dia with a Tactical Visor, though, can't really get much of anything.
No, struggling. Again, this is what I mean about Soldier 76. His damage is so easily diverted or blocked in some way or another. Even by deflect, their mistakes coming forward. He might have overextended slightly, but he had the Swift Strike to get away from the creeping tendrils of Fearless's Tesla gun. And Altering brings Fearless back into the fight. With Gamsu down, that's a Winston advantage to the Dragons. They now have the initiation, and they've got to go here, Matt.
All they're going to have is Geggery's self-destruct, though. She's about 89% here. It'll be a self-destruct from Note. That goes in deep. That's going to force players
Not again, Free Feel!
Free Feel yet again. Mistakes with the Dragon Blade Mitch here could close it out.
Geggery trying to chase in there with that mech, but Mistakes gets a little bit out of position. He can't block the self-destruct, but he got 2 kills, and that may just be enough. Giving up his life, putting his body on the line for his team, and now Geggery will be quickly, swiftly de-suited after jumping back in the mech, and she was the last player on the point for the Dragons. They will fall before taking point B.
Yeah, Mistakes and Striker, like a great DPS combo. I thought Mistakes, that's one of his better halves we've seen from him in the Overwatch League. 18 limbs, 11 final blows. Him and Striker combined for 21 final blows out of Boston's 33. So getting a lot of those two players.
Big credit to Ado on that Tracer primarily.
Yeah.
Putting out about 27% of his team's damage, which for a Tracer player is a little bit more than what's standard. Normally it's about 22. Yes, if you have a Mercy on your team, like you can have some more inflated numbers, but Dia had the most deaths here on the Shanghai Dragons. It's clear to see that Boston were prioritizing him and Free Feel a lot.
I mean, I mentioned the great things that Mistakes and Striker were doing. Geggery and Otto combined for 16 final blows. That they only have 20.
Well, that's 80% of the
And-
final blows on the Dragons from 2 players.
And Geggery has 10 herself. That's half.
Yes.
That is a lot from their Diva player. You just need a Dia right now on that 76. He looked good on the Widowmaker at the beginning, right? He was able to pressure Mistakes out a little bit, put down some damage. It's just when they get to that point B and they have to play either that McCree or you don't really want to play 76 in that position, right? I mean, you want to play McCree ideally because just the burst damage, right? When they come up on the high ground, being able to flash the Winston in midair and then be able to put some shots down and also deal with the flankers too.
Again, and bringing a Soldier 76 means that you have less players that jump on the dive boat, and it also can make it a little bit harder to remove enemy divas from the mech. There's no point tacking if you've got a defense matrix to deal with.
And I think 76 has some places on some of these maps where he is far superior than McCree. Like, if you were to play defense here and you wanted to play either McCree or 76, you'd rather have the 76. Almost like Nimbani, right? He can use a sprint to just get to different places on the high ground.
Or just being able to respond to a dive. You can run away from it and you can throw down a Bardic field.
Yeah, I mean, when you play in there on point B, you're just going up to the high ground on the lift, right? So, I mean, just playing up on there, there's not really much value you're going to get out of that mobility with the sprint.
Well then, Boston Uprising need to capture 1/3 on point B to win this map.
No Widow on defense here for Shanghai. They're going to go full-on dive. So Dia will play Tracer. Otto play Genji, the standout hero we've seen from him in Stage 3. Although we say that, his Tracer has gotten better.
Whether they're playing dive or not, Mistakes must be taken out of the picture. The Dragons don't have any excuse for leaving him alive. Now, especially that they have this dive composition, they're doing a great job though. This is how it should look. You see Geggery plays straight towards Mistakes, knocks him out of position, makes it very hard for the Widowmaker to have sight lines or safe angles at all. And now they chase the rest of the Boston Uprising out. This is definitely a case of Boston being fed some of their own medicine here with this double DPS dive without a Widow. Boston did this on defense on point B themselves.
Yeah, Mistakes goes right away. Off of Widowmaker goes to McCree. So you can see the effects that dive having already.
Slightly safer when being dived. Still not great if you get jumped on. Let's see, Matt. Mistakes always standing behind his front line. You see, make sure he stands about 5 paces behind Note. Here comes Geggery in there as well. Mistakes holds the flash until Geggery's defense matrix wasn't in effect. Nicely played, but Ardo got to cause some problems here in the back line. He's found both of the supports of the Boston Uprising, and there's little they can really do now with Note getting desuited. Geggery has been removed from the picture, but Mistakes is out of position, surrounded by a number of Shanghai Dragons players behind Ardo.
A lot of ultimates here invested from Shanghai though, Mitch. They used their Dragon Blade, they used Primal Rage. They also ended up using Valkyrie, so you're going to have a bit of an advantage here for Boston. I mean, they're going to end up with both support ults. They take out Fearless with a Pulse Bomb, and actually Freefeel uses the Transcendence because he was trying to keep Fearless alive. I mean, Fearless already had used Primal Rage, so he wasn't going to be able to live through it.
You can save a Winston from a Pulse Bomb with a Transcendence, providing the Winston was at full health before the Pulse Bomb hit, right? Because it's not enough to kill him, and it'll be even less than enough to kill him as Tracer gets changed in the future. However, have the rest of the Boston Uprising pushing in, and with that, the Transcendence life's going to get very hard for the Dragons now. The healing is way in favor of the Boston Uprising, and the Dragons can't even put a scratch on them with the Transcendence in play. Freefeel, out of position there. Not much he could do. The rest of his team had been taken down, and the Boston Uprising will have point A.
If you look, they'll have a ton of time to attack point B. Striker with this Pulse Bomb could be devastating. We talked a little bit about Freefield's struggles staying alive early in these fights. Look for him to be a prime target.
He did farm 75% of his next Transcendence in one fight, which is impressive to say the least.
And I mean, Altering ends up with 70% of his Valkyrie too, because he had used it at the beginning of that fight. It never really ended.
If you can farm ultimates like that in a losing fight, you're going to still be happy with that. The problem is the Dragons can't give Boston too much time on the point. They only need one tick. Dragon Blade and Pulse Bomb, both committed to that fight. Both DPS ultimates from the Dragons were used, and it is enough to stop Boston for now. But there's 5 minutes and 3 seconds on the clock, and Boston have a lot of time up their sleeve.
I think that's fine because you'll have both support ults and you'll have Primal Rage for the next fight. So a lot of stall potential if Boston gets onto the point and they're able to make the fight interesting. I think it's not this fight, it's probably the next fight you look at for Boston. Because you'll have both support ults, you potentially hold on to this Pulse Bomb, or you'll have that Deadeye to zone some players off, so.
It's funny how that's how we talk about Deadeye these days.
Yeah, it's not really,
not a fight winner. Not really.
Not anymore.
Oh, I like this lead with an aggressive Transcendence here. The Pulse Bomb from Striker doesn't really find the target, at least it doesn't dispatch anyone. But it's a 2 for 2 with a Resurrect on Fearless now. The Boston Uprising are actually turning this fight somewhat in their favor. But I feel like at this stage they're going to struggle. Striker still finds Freefeel, but it's only Striker and Mistakes that are really left. And Striker will have to probably just give up his life here unless he gets staggered out. It'll be the second option.
Yeah, he was not in a position to live very long, right? I mean, behind enemy lines there is... So they did use Transcendence. That's the big one you got out. What did Boston decide to hold on to? So they held on to Self-Destruct. They held on to Primal Rage. Now they have that Deadeye I was talking about.
It was a pretty low economy fight from Boston. They did throw a Pulse Bomb in there. I just think the Dragons are using their ultimates fairly well. Like, maybe not super efficiently, but they are using them and winning fights with them, which is great.
So they're going to enter with their Valkyrie. Boston will end with a Valkyrie of their own here.
That's a lot of exclamation marks.
That goes on to Mistakes, but it's going to be 2 kills for Boston. Now it'll be the Deadeye.
Ardo, what are you doing? He charges in, he faces the music, and there was a back cap on the point.
On the
Boston Uprising had Striker and Gamsu work around the back. Now will be the first map going over to the blue and the yellow.
And it goes by so quick because they only need that 1 tick there on point B. Not a lot of progress made by Shanghai. Striker, yet again, 30 limbs, 15 final blows, only 2 deaths. The guy's a machine.
Yeah, just going off there. Great performances from Geggery and Ardo in general, but it's not enough for the Dragons to get a look in. I'm enjoying seeing their defensive dive. I think the Dragons are bringing more of that aggression. Let's see if that carries over into map number 2. We'll see in a bit.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
Austin holding again. They have made this look easy.
This is the opening the Dragons were looking for.
Impressive work.
Oh, Dia! Striker, meanwhile, going to work. Neko somehow stays safe.
This is where the Dragons shut it down.
Oh, from downtown!
In their search for their first victory of the Overwatch League, now the Shanghai Dragons face arguably the toughest challenge of Stage 3, Matt. Had to say, though, we've seen some standouts, some decent performances on both teams, but also Shanghai. I have to say that players like Ado and Yeguri are getting in the mix.
Yeah, they're doing a nice job. I think they just need to figure out a way to protect these supports and allow Dia, when he switches over to something like the McCree, to have the space to work with. Because when he doesn't have the space, what does he do? He goes over to 76, and 76 doesn't really provide that much there on Volskaya point B.
Yeah, true enough. And of course, looking over some of these Genjis as well, we want to talk a little bit about Ado and Genji in general. And we actually do have a resident Genji expert, believe it or not, in the crew. His name, the Brenji, you might have heard of him before. We did want to get a little bit of a thought from Bren, at least on what he'd seen so far from that one.
Bren.
Yeah,
Bren
absolutely, guys. I mean, I've seen some fantastic stuff so far, and I'm glad you've come to me finally for my expertise on the Genji role. The number one thing I've seen is mistakes. He's actually very good at saving his blade for the next map. Now, that's a strategy that I employ quite often in my ranked games. It doesn't work most of the time because, unfortunately, Overwatch doesn't work that way. But, every now and then it can work out. So, I mean, mistakes, props to him. And then, of course, Ado as well. He comes in. So another strategy that I like to employ in my ranked games is as soon as I see a support player, I just swift strike into them. I don't really care about the scenario as to the outcome either. I just kind of just try and put as much damage in as possible, as quickly as possible. And if your team starts screaming at you in voice chat for it, again, you just leave voice chat. So I'm looking at Ado and mistakes in particular. Again, it's very promising stuff so far, and I'm very pleased with the way they are employing my strategies, the hashtag Brenji strategy.
Somewhere Johnny heard the word expert, and then we threw to Bren, and then Johnny just started hitting up every Overwatch League GM. He's like, I think I can play again. He's like, if these are the other experts that they can bring in.
Thank you very much for that one, Bren.
Love you, Bren.
If you are interested in exactly how Bren plays the Brenji, he does play on Sideshow's stream as well. We have unfortunately been drawn into that at times, and it's not been great. But it's fun to check out. I guess you like to watch that stuff. But let's get back to the game now. Yeah. Of course, it's a 1-0 lead here to the Boston Uprising after Volskaya. Sky is in.
Okay, so he'll come in for free fill here on Nabani. You'll think he'll play Ana on the defensive side. Potentially could play, Ana on the offense, but most likely he'll play Zen, so you kind of want him for the Ana on defense. You see a lot of Ana, primarily. I mean, this is the only map we really see a ton of Ana on the defensive side, as Nabani will be game 2.
Right, so that's reasonable, especially defensively. We see a lot more of that. And do you think, though, that he will have to play Zenyatta at some point on this map, right?
I don't think he'll play Ana on offense.
Oh, yeah.
I think he will play Zen. I mean, you could play like Lucio Mercy on offense. Just kind of like use the speed boost to get to the high ground if you really wanted to dive aggressive.
Again, Five King's not on the roster right now. He normally would be that Lucio player, so perhaps that is...
He's on the roster, he's on the bench.
Sorry, that's what I meant. So perhaps, altering, him playing a lot more, being more of a Mercy-focused healer. It's interesting, the Dragons actually have, a lot of those individual players that are very, specialized on one particular support player, which is really interesting.
And so, I mean, they've needed to, kind of get players who are a little bit more flexible, right? I mean, they come in, with primarily 2 DPS players who are hit scan players. Now you've brought in somebody who can play projectile, like Ado, who can play a really good Genji. So you're starting to see them work through some of these roster decisions and, right their wrongs.
Yeah, it's funny. When we spoke to the Dragons coaching staff in the preseason, they kind of implied to us that it was intentional to bring 2 hit scan focused players onto the team initially. So that could have been just their take on what they expected in the Overwatch League. Obviously, it didn't work out great. Obviously, they made some changes. Obviously, now they're here with a very different looking team. That's the way the cookie crumbles, as they say. So Shanghai will start on the attacking side. So we may well see Sky on that Zenyatta here.
Yeah, and on defense, you're going to see Mistakes play Soldier 76, and Neko will play Ana. So this is one of the maps, like I mentioned, 76 still very good on the high ground. Mistakes can just run around from side to side, be very difficult to track down. Give a good angle for his supports to get away. Most likely what we'll see is Gamsu will play on that platform, do the jump he just did back towards Mistakes as soon as that pressure comes through.
He can get across those platforms pretty easily if he needs to. So, yeah. I don't think Fearless plays Lucio. Yeah, the switch is up now to what we would more expect to be that standard Shanghai Dragons composition, which involves 2 diving DPS and 2 diving tanks. So you can expect that aggression now. Let's continue to see this new look aggressive dive from the Dragons showcased here on Numbani Attack.
You see Otto's Genji. The Frenchie would be proud.
Absolutely.
So all stats the Frenchie will never get close to. Otto ranking in the top half of the league and a lot of those. So it seems like they're just poking around the corner. So Shanghai dives onto the high ground, Mitch, and then they actually don't push all the way through. They actually just sit down, they force them around the corner. It's going to be pretty costly if Boston's going to try and get back to the point.
Where's Pill? There wasn't a lot of help there for Otto, but Fearless wasn't able to pick him up there. There was the backup. And there it is. Nice work by the Boston Uprising. You did see that Neko was getting a lot of attention there by Fearless, but was kept healed up by Kellex for most of that time. Now Dia finds himself on his own.
Yeah, I mean, the biotic grenade from Neko is huge to keep himself up for a little bit, and then Kellex is also pocketing him in the back. You're able to keep him alive, and the healing that Ana can provide pretty strong, right? It's just not a lot of mobility.
Yeah, she's one of the few that really gives that burst healing, I suppose, when they use the biotic grenade, and then that obviously amplifies subsequent healing for the duration of the ability.
It's funny, it's like sometimes you're playing at home and you're wondering if you are getting healed. You know, when you have an Ana, you can definitely tell if you're being healed or not.
Yeah, you will know about it. You get shot with darts, it's like acupuncture. It's a little bit of a pleasant kind. So Mistakes rolls in with a tactical visor here. Notice that Gregory was the first target. They worked on getting her desuited. Mistakes was able to finish her off with attack, and then altering ate a face full of Helix Rocket.
So the benefit here for Shanghai is that obviously Nano Visor used their 2 pretty powerful ultimates combined together. Shanghai will have both support ult and Dragon Blade. There's no 2 sustain ultimates on the side of the Boston Uprising because you're not running a Zen or a Lucio or like a Moira, for instance, with a Coalescence. You only have Valkyrie, so that's all that Boston will have to keep them alive and topped up through this Dragon Blade.
I love the combo of a Biotic Grenade used aggressively with a Winston follow-up. No healing, and you're eating that Tesla cannon the whole time. It can be really nasty. So they got a tick, 2 ticks in fact already. Otto going in, he did get Biotic Grenaded, but he's alive enough to deal with Mistakes, and Neko is down. Well, he fancies a bit more, but he can't quite get up to the level of Kellex there. Regardless, Boston have been cut down to size sufficiently, and it was Striker and Gamsu are fighting on the point right now. Striker having just fallen down, Gamsu having to back away. And that's Dio with the pulse bomb just to secure the no kill. Gamsu's going to struggle to stay alive here, and the Dragons, you better believe it, got that first point under their belt.
And that's the downside of running an Ana here on the first point on Numbani. You don't have another support ultimate to keep yourselves alive on through that. You're really relying on what? And Neko to land a big biotic grenade.
Which I think Otto was doused with that anti-heal. I don't know who else was affected by it at the time because we're watching from Otto's perspective with the blade. So there was an attempt to counter the Transcendence at least.
And also, Shanghai had already made some progress on the point, so you get pushed back all the way into the street, almost by the bus here. And then what, you have to have somebody go all the way around to the point. It's a very difficult position to play out of.
Otto now being pocketed by altering, so he's not too worried about the Winston. He can go deep, he can dive in. He sees the support, he swift strikes them. The Brenji has spoken. Now, just try and work around the edges of this fight. He knows Mistakes is at work with a tactical visor because the voice line rings out across the battlefield. He's probably going to stay out of this guy's line of sight. Fearless! Oh. He used to be a warrior until he took a Helix Rocket to the knee. Now he's in spawn. Striker there, actually. Striker is being pressured by these traces in this match. Otto and Dia, should I say, are making his life a little bit harder.
Yeah, Boston does have an area of opportunity here, though. So Fearless was coming off the spot. Now Fearless is back in the fight, so it'll be a full 6-on-6 here. Coming up with the cart, has not been able to move around the corner. Striker doing a nice job of just contesting it. Lands a pulse bomb right onto Fearless. They'll be altering who has used his Valkyrie. Here's going to be Otto with his Dragon Blade.
These blades have been very good so far, but Neko cuts him down mid-flight. Otto can't escape from a headshot and an orb of destruction. So now Gamsu, I would consider this to be a very deep position for Sky to be in. They've sort of gone around them. So the Boston Uprising now can sit on the payload and wait for the Dragons to come back. But they're on Boston's end of the field right now, which is so interesting.
Yeah.
Neko's brought back to life. No being taken down. You can see over the fight in the backline, Neko was still sort of free to do damage and untouched, so expect there to be good healing still in this fight. Gamsu's getting it all right now. Kellex and the orb, but Sky finishes the Winston.
Yeah, Striker has another pulse bomb here. It'll be Valkyrie used by Kellex. Boston does not want to let them push the payload on forward. Striker used that pulse bomb, connects on Fearless yet again. So the second fight in a row, he's been able to use that pulse bomb to take out a tank, and then they dive all the way in the back. That's Neko again.
It's the same fight, really. It's all been one fight. And in this fight, Neko has killed Otto twice on the Zenyatta, and Striker has killed Fearless twice with pulse bombs. That's how long it's gone. And that's how effective those two individuals were able to be.
You have like all the ultimates that were available at the beginning of the original fight. Well, now again here. You're
Must
gonna
be a
have both.
nightmare to track ult economy at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the harder things to do, right? Those fights just extend for a while. You don't know who you've been taking damage from the entire time and whatnot. Otto will have another blade. Neko's going to have Transcendence, though. Fight on through it. Mistakes nowhere close to Tactical Visor, so you don't really have to worry about that. This is probably Shanghai's best attempt to take this point. If they don't get it, they're in trouble. Only a minute to go.
There's another blade for Otto, though. That could be the option Max actually sort of pointed out. He's been the one to actually make the difference in that
They
previous
want
fight.
to get Transcendence out first.
Okay, that's the transfer, has been forced out, but mistake still goes down to Geggery's self-destruct. It didn't matter. Fearless also falls, though. He's had a rough time of it, that Winston player for the Shanghai Dragons. And Otto may not even need to use the Dragon Blade here. Neko's hiding. Great use of Deflect immediately from Otto, knowing that Neko was charging up his Orb to Destruction salvo. He waits it out. Patience pays. And Otto gets the finish on Neko. Second checkpoint down for the Dragons.
Yeah, Shanghai did a nice job of forcing out the Transcendence from Neko. They knew it was up. They used their own Valkyrie. And then they had Fearless dive on in. He had Primal Rage. Geggery used his Self-Destruct. Neko uses the Transcendence. They back up just a little bit. And Otto doesn't even need to use that blade. Now you have it for the next fight. So, Kellex has Valkyrie available as they lose Sky early. That's a tough one.
Still looking for damage on mistakes, or ideally you tank the charge up the next Pulse Bomb, but no, he's going to get out already. They've lost Altering and Otto. And that's a fight already over, and the Uprising were able to chase this one down and get some extra stagger. That one there on Dia. That's going to hurt in the grand scheme. They give up Neko for the stagger.
And just like that, when they push on forward and they get that stagger, that's something we don't see Shanghai do too often. That's something that Shanghai needs to incorporate. Is that when they get those first few kills, they push on and they be aggressive and they go all the way in.
Right?
Yeah, they don't follow up a lot. You're losing a ton of ult charge that way. You know, not able to finish off those kills. You know, get everybody their ults a little bit faster. Also, the opportunity to send people back to the spawn for an extended period of time.
Time is money, literally, when it comes to Overwatch, if you want to look at the very, very grand scheme of things. So Sky was behind Striker. I think Striker didn't know there was a Zen standing behind him. Otto with a Dragon Blade, though, might be time to make a difference, and he does, as usual. Neko shuts him down during Dragon Blade with a headshot for the second time in this round. And Geggery's really realizing all of a sudden there's no one really in the backlines of the Uprising from the Dragons. And Mistakes has the space to be brought back to life by Kellex. That's not ideal for Shanghai at all.
And because Mistakes has Tac Visor, you bring him back into the fight. Also because Otto is dead, you don't really have to worry about that flanking Genji. He'll use the Tactical Visor, stay in the bubble for just a second that Gamsu put down. So he doesn't get taken out by it, and he'll take out Geggery as she's flying through the air, not able to get a remake.
Would that timing really hurt the Dragons? If Geggery goes for the self-destruct, that and her getting taken out of a mech via damage are the only times that you're going to be vulnerable to the Tactical Visor. So Geggery went for the self-destruct, she was vulnerable, she ate Mistakes' aim hack. And now it's one more fight to go. Already Primal had to be popped by Fearless to get onto the payload. Geggery has to give up her mech to even get there. Perhaps they could have just let Fearless do it and keep the mech alive. We'll never know. Note finds two with the self-destruct kill. Altering Dia had no choice but to come forward. Geggery down on the payload now, and overtime will be dissipated. This means Fearless has to return to the payload. Sky is down, but Otto did a good job dealing with the mistakes there. It's actually a 2v2. Neko can't get close to the payload right now. But the Shanghai Dragons can't dive off of the payload to try and chase this Zenyatta down. Such a weird situation. Otto is down. Overtime. Will it hang in there? No, Altering can't quite get there. And the Shanghai Dragons make a respectable run through Numbani, but fail ultimately to hit that last cul-de-sac and finish the map.
Yeah, it was a self-destruct from Node. He throws it right in the underpass, and Sky actually uses Transcendence, and Altering, I believe it's Dia, don't even really move around the corner. They're not able to get out in time. You'd feel like, I know Dia's playing Soldier 76. He would be able to get out. Gamsu is there putting some pressure on, but let's take a look here. So, self-destruct comes
I think they're safe because of the Transcendence.
Nah, maybe because he's around the corner. Is he going for a res, maybe they're Altering it look like?
What's so astonishing about that self-destruct is that maybe like a couple of inches higher, and that doesn't affect anyone in that part of the underpass, right? It was set to blow up just at like the height of the roof of the underpass, so that you will never really know if you're safe from it or not. And they're often the deadliest Diva self-destructs.
And towards the end, what it looked, at least for a split second, that doesn't make any sense. I was like, oh, maybe they went for the res there, but I believe they both died of the self-destruct.
Yeah.
Not even able to really go.
Yeah, the 76 and the Mercy are down at that point.
Yeah, for a second, if you watch like really fast, you maybe thought Gamsu had actually taken out Dia, and then he was using the Transcendence to be able to get the res through it, but they both died to the self-destruct.
Okay, this game is definitely giving us a lot to ponder in terms of the minutiae of some of these plays, the little things. But now, we will get to see probably the main reason that Sky gets subbed in onto this map. And all fairness to Sky as well, fairly solid. I managed to get 3 final blows on that Zenyatta, 7 deaths, and a decent amount of damage put out. So really nothing to be grizzling about there for the Dragons.
No, and I think the one thing that you notice a little bit more when Free Feel is in, that he's prone to dying a little bit early in these fights. Never really saw that with Sky too much. Always, always alive, of being able to use the Transcendence. No, I don't feel like his Transcendences were as effective as Free Feels. The few that we saw were maybe a little bit too late, or not in a great position with everybody else. But I think the ability to stay alive, fairly important. It'll be a Pharah on defense here from Shanghai. Dia will play the Pharah.
I like this. It's a good answer sometimes to a Genji Tracer dive, because Genji Tracer struggle to interact directly with a Pharah in many cases. Sky, is he all on his own? He hits a sleep dart, but no, he's actually been pocketed from above by Mercies. That's not too bad. I figured he had no peel at one point. So Boston go deep and lose Kellex. They trade out Mercies here, and Sky eventually goes down. So they can technically loop back, and it looks like the Dragons have lost so many players just by trying to peel for the Zenyatta. Or the Ana, should I say.
Yeah, they haven't really even worried about Dia up in the sky. That's kind of the alternate way you play around that. If you're Boston, you don't have any hit scan, so what you do is you just put so much pressure on the ground and just try and get the supports to the fact that you're not even worried about the Pharah. So Dia will switch off a Pharah right away, go to 76. I think Otto may be able to get a touch here, but it's going to be pretty close.
I mean, Dia can't get up to the high ground now. He doesn't really have the time to give the long way back, so 76's key advantage on this point kind of been nullified. Gregory, desuited. Fearless trying to chase Neko up the wall, and the Lucio is trying to escape. Somehow he hangs on to life, and Ultron goes for the Caduceus Blaster. Oh, mistakes will fall as Otto chases him down, only about 10 health. Ultron can't escape. He tries to whiz back into the underpass. And it's just Fearless, but the point was already captured. So the rhythm and the flow of that fight is definitely very different to what we normally see on this map. Boston chased the Dragons off the point and killed them there, then sort of rotate back to capture it, which kind of gives the Dragons enough time to go for one more fight. But the cadence was completely messed up from what we're used to watching, Matt. It's so strange.
Because Sky has to drop a Vanda to Zen, Boston's going to know they have no Transcendence. I mean, look at all the ultimates that Boston has used here.
That's a big giveaway, right?
Neko used Sound Barrier later in the fight, and you probably would have been like, oh, that's not a really great Sound Barrier. It wasn't a great Sound Barrier, but the fact that he switches right away, don't need the Lucio here for the second point. It's not really that important. It's a big kill, though, Otto on a Kellex. That may give Shanghai a few extra minutes to stay alive.
Yeah, it's on like Donkey Kong. Speaking of which, a Primal Rage from Gamsu just helping to prove my point. The Dragon Blade almost enough to claim the mini Diva. Ultron gets the Resurrect here in the backline, but the problem is Dia gets resurrected into 3 players looking straight at him, so he barely has a chance to respond. But at least Ultron does the right thing. If you res a player where you're surrounded by enemies, pocket the player after you resurrect. Give them a couple seconds fighting chance. But the Dragons just had to straight up disengage.
Yeah, Boston's able to continue to move the payload. They're also doing a nice job building their way towards the Transcendence, and they held on to Valkyrie because Kellex died so early, and they're still able to advance the payload. It'll be Valkyrie here for Boston as you see how aggressive they're getting behind it.
That self-destruct, Boston going to take cover in this small room here, but that kind of suits them just fine because Sky and Ultron were locked in there with them. And Mistakes gets 2 kills from Swift Strikes. The resets are real. And now it's only Gregory up on that payload. Kellex is still able to get the Resurrect on Neko, who eventually goes down. Gregory's doing a very good job of making it costly for the Dragons, but regardless, the Boston Uprising are blistering through this map.
Both tanks for Shanghai dive right onto the payload, and what does Boston use? They just go right past them. Kellex uses Valkyrie, just heals up Gamsu, and notice they go right past those tanks. Then Fearless and Gregory don't have any movement abilities to get back to Boston, potentially, peel for their supports. You saw they just went in, killed the supports, then worked their way back to take out the tanks on the point.
Striker with a pulse bomb now. He will probably want to wait for the Transcendence to expire just to make sure he can get a confirmed kill. Oh dear. Oh, that was eaten by Gregory. Perfect stuff there from the Diva of the Shanghai Dragons, and Striker pays for it. Great turnaround again. The Diva play can't really falter in this match in general, Matt. Nope. We're getting the good stuff.
Yeah, it's a great use of defense matrix there. I know
just the follow-up as well. Gregory gets 2 kills straight after it.
But that's the follow-up that Shanghai needs, though. So you see, now they'll have to use a res on a Neko, so you know that Boston doesn't have their res. Till about like the 330 mark on the board. So I like this aggressive defense for Shanghai. I feel like when you've seen Shanghai be aggressive and actually play put the pressure on their opponents, that's when they're at their best. It's when they get pushed back and they have to make decisions on whether to dive on in deeper or peel, that's when they struggle.
Mistakes wants to use this Dragon Blade. He's going to have an entire backline to himself here at this stage. We'll see what happens there, but again, Shanghai have split themselves in half. So the aggressive players have gone forward, and Mistakes was hoping to do something to the backline. I like this. This is what the Dragons were doing on Boskaya on that first point A. Their aggression was good. However, they've lost Gregory now. Arguably, their star player in Camps is going to follow up here. He is being healed by Kellex, and this is at least going to give some free ground to the Uprising despite losing Mistakes.
They're going to res Mistakes here, and they're going to try and use this blade. They've used Valkyrie. You're going to have Transcendence as well. As soon as he gets res, he pops the Dragon Blade, able to cut through 2. There's the Transcendence that comes through from Neko, keeping everybody else alive as Boston's trying to close out the map.
Interesting, isn't it? We've got, Ardo, Fearless, and Gregory, the Korean-speaking players going forward, but often the Chinese-speaking players are sitting back. It might even be the communication that's the problem. Regardless, the Dragons split themselves in half, and Boston, they have their cake and eat it too. There's 2 maps to 0 right now in this series, and Boston are looking like they're gonna have that 11-win streak to match the record that NYXL set earlier in the season.
Boston is just so solid from top to bottom. Not really a weakness on this roster. Play so well together.
You love to see it. We're gonna be back after halftime. We're gonna break down the match. We're gonna get some insights from our experts, and then we'll jump into map 3 following that one. We'll see you in just a few moments.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Sour Patch Kids. Sour, sweet, gone.
Welcome back. It's Stage 3, Week 4, Day 1, and so far it's all Boston Uprising. Our team that is undefeated here in Stage 3 is perfect here to open things up. Welcome back, everybody. It's Puckett at the desk with the boys once again. We got Sideshow, we've got Brendan. Two very fast games. Let's get into it talking about Boston because this is the squad that held Shanghai short of both attacks.
That's true, and they are so good at Volskaya. Boston Uprising still undefeated on Volskaya. Their assault gameplay is incredible, and this is a great record for them. Not only are they the best team in the world right now on Volskaya and assault maps kind of in general, Anubis goes up there alongside it, but also they are about to match the win streak if they win this one of NYXL. And so they're in some sense trying to take the throne away from what most would consider the undisputed best team in the league.
Now 9-0 on Volskaya Industries is the Boston Uprising. What makes them so good at this map in particular, Brent?
I think it really does suit the playstyle that they like to play, which is the slow, long-range sort of sniping with Soldier 76, with the Widowmaker, with the Mercy as well in particular. And then we move over to Nambani as well. And this is another map that actually Boston, if you look at it statistically, they actually haven't had good success on in the past.
One of their worst.
It's one of their worst maps. However, in recent times, they have stepped it up tremendously, really fixing up a lot of these mistakes. And I feel like it is just a slight change of pace that they needed to get used to.
The thing about Boston Uprising is, as soon as they figure out a map, they are suddenly incredible at it because they rely so much on having a game plan and their coaching staff and this kind of stuff. They actually had, we say how good they are on assault maps, they had actually never won Hanamura in Stage 1. So they had not figured that map out at all, and so they were they didn't have a single win on it. They go into the other assault maps, they figure them out, then they're unbeaten. So it's such a dichotomy with Boston Uprising. If they know how to play a map, they are going to be incredible at it.
And let's take a look at some of the numbers from our game so far and taking a look at some individuals. We're going to highlight the support starting with the Boston Uprising Zenyatta. Neko throughout this stage, pretty impressive stats.
Yes, and this is ranked out of 16. I feel like Neko goes under the radar a little bit, but you can see that his hero damage per 10 minutes is second overall. That is ridiculous. You put guys like Badoshan up there with Jonak as the best Zenyatta in the league. Neko's left very much to do his own thing, isn't pocketed that much, sometimes has the assistance coming from Kellex, but is able to pour out a huge amount of damage. His offensive assists third in the league as well. This is an aggressive team once they get into position, and Neko's ability on Zenyatta facilitates that a lot.
Pretty impressive damage there. His healing, pretty low.
That's
You're
what you see
number
with Jonak.
14 out of 16. Is that because these guys don't need to heal? Are their teammates not taking damage, or is the focus purely DPS support?
Yeah, I think that is a lot of it, is the fact that Boston plays so disciplined. Like, they don't take a lot of unnecessary damage. They're always using the geography of the map to hide around corners. So they play it very well, and they don't necessarily need the healing output from Neko himself.
Yeah, and they always run with the Mercy. The same with New York XL. They run with the Mercy a lot of the time. Huge healing output from Kellex and from Arc, and so the Zenyatta doesn't have to do that kind of stuff.
One of the key players for the players on the other side of the stage, the Shanghai Dragons, is Addo. Now, we highlighted Addo in the pre-game show. We talked about his Genji potential, his Dragon Blades. A lot of them that I've seen, well, he had some early success, but then was getting shut down by Boston. Brenji, how do you rank the Genji play from Shanghai so far?
You say he's getting shut down, but realistically, he is playing into a very, once again, disciplined team that are more than capable of shutting him down when he goes for those blades. So even if he gets a single kill, if he gets 2 kills, that's fantastic. If he gets 1 kill, that's great. If he forces out any sort of support ult at all from Boston as well, that's fantastic. So realistically, Addo is playing ridiculously well because the statistics that he's putting out, despite the fact that he's on the worst performing team, are just absolutely wonderful. And it's really nice to see. Just excellent mechanical skill translating nicely, and he is one of the sort of key members of this team that are pushing them forward a lot of the time.
Yeah,
Addo, go ahead.
And for Addo, because he's sat on such a bad team, you know, he's just got to stick it out for the rest of the season, and in some sense, he's just got to deal with it.
There you go. There you go. Free glasses. All you had to do is buy your tickets for Wednesday or Thursday. Come on down to the Blizzard Arena and watch the games live. Now, we got the second half coming up. And one thing to keep an eye on, Boston is going for the league record. They're trying to make history with 7 straight wins, 0 losses in his stage. Can they do it? They need just one more map. Ilios, Route 66, coming up when we return.
If you're in the Los Angeles area, come experience Overwatch League live at Blizzard Arena. For tickets, check out access.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Boston Uprising have a 2-0 lead over the Shanghai Dragons at halftime, and it's been a really tough one so far for the Dragons. You got Note playing so well for Boston. This is only going to get tougher because we're going to a control map next. We know how good the Uprising are on control maps, but the Shanghai Dragons are not too bad at control maps either, so if they're going to sneak over and take one, I would think it'd be in this map. And for the Boston Uprising, it is very important that they do not let that happen, because even though they're undefeated so far this stage, if they were to lose a game and they were to tie with, say, a team like the LA Valiant, they lose when it comes to map differential as we stand right now. So that term, every map matters, is definitely relevant at this point for the Uprising. But anyways, guys, it is match point Boston. Can they close this one out in our next map? Let's find out right now and send it over to our casters, Uber and Mr. X.
Yeah, nailed it, Malik. Those maps are very important now. I love that he brings up as well that bear in mind, Boston are at the top of this stage, but they don't have the best map differential because they've been playing a lot of these 5-map series.
I mean, all it would take is, after this, then the next week, they do play both LA teams, the Gladiators and the Valiant. I mean, all it would take is one loss to the Valiant. The Valiant run the table from here on out. They both finish at 9-1, then the Valiant has the advantage. Then you go to maps with maybe New York Excel, right, who only has one loss right now. Could be very close.
Let's do what I wanted to do before and have a look at the flex tank here for the Boston Uprising. You know, I really do gush a little bit when I talk about this team of players that have come together from relative obscurity and made into a world-class roster. But the stuff there for Note that's highlighted in yellow, obviously, or the orange, is like significantly more than league average stats, right? Yeah. This guy gets involved in a lot of fights. He's doing a lot of damage. You notice that in terms of damage blocked and deaths, you know, he's sort of right on the cusp there. But this guy is definitely, you know, up there in terms of those deeper players.
Those are the stats you would probably want from a player, right? If he's not above league average, he's not very far from it, and then in some categories way above league average. So that would tell you that I know he's a very talented player. You've seen, I know at the beginning when Boston struggled way back in stage 1, the only subs they really made with this roster were Note and Kalios in terms of that off-tank role, and they've definitely decided on Note. I think it was a good decision. At least when we're playing a lot of Diva, we know Kalios does have a good Zarya.
Yeah, and that's where we've seen him before. Those stats, by the way, don't include this match, which, for the record, has been exceptionally good for Note.
He's been quite well.
Currently, well, I mean, on that last map, he was 44 eliminations and 14 final blows for 5 deaths. So, yeah, pretty nice. Ilios, off to the Sunny Shores map to see if the Shanghai Dragons can now sort of produce, again, that aggression and take it into a more fundamental play style here, which is kind of the way we refer to control maps, where you're not working around any crazy objectives, you're attacking the same objective over and over again, or you're defending it. So it definitely, you know, works you more down to the bare bones of team fighting.
So you guys may not realize that at home, but I want to bring it up. Something that happened in the halftime. So you notice the players on Shanghai loaded at the top of the screen. Different positions than they were in before.
They're a different order.
So they actually decided to change seats on the stage at halftime. Now you have, all the Chinese-speaking players on the left-hand side, as you would with altering Dia and Sky, and then all the Korean-speaking players with Gegri, Fearless, and Otto on the right-hand side. I thought it was a little bit of an interesting switch up there at the half.
Yeah, super odd. I mean, I guess, no, I don't really know why that would be.
A lot of teams we've seen have their Tracers sit near their Winston,
so they can watch the Winston.
You can watch the screen a little bit as the players next to them.
Oh, that makes sense. Then if Otto and Fearless are standing, we see Sabiobi does that a lot actually.
Yes.
With Mano, constantly looks at his screen just to kind of know he can stay in hiding, and he can still see what the Winston sees. You're kind of screen cheating off your teammates, but it's allowed, of course. That's the thing. McCree straight out the gates here for Shanghai Boston and bringing the Sombra map.
It's going to be a lot of pressure on Dia. He had some struggles playing McCree back in Volskaya against that aggressive dive. Now it's going to be almost as hard with mistakes playing Sombra, right? Obviously, Sombra can go invisible, can hack you, all your abilities are gone. Very devastating to a McCree.
However, Strike is actually the first one felled by Sky at relatively long range, as Zenyatta from the safety of the backline was able to pick out the Tracer for the Boston Uprising. And now Note's playing a little bit more cagely here. Doesn't want to commit to the point, having already lost a teammate, but is not in a position to defend his backline much at all. That's been Gamsu's job. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to keep his Mercy alive. So now the Dragons really start to get out in front here.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good fight from Sky in particular. He gets that first pick, and then Mistakes goes to put some pressure on him, playing Sombra, and he's able to fend for himself. Doesn't really need a lot of help. He gets Mistakes weak, forces him back. They're able to pick up that kill as well. That's what you want to see out of your Zen. I feel like the caliber of Zen play has just upped so high in the Overwatch League since it began, where your Zenyatta needs to be able to battle those flankers at close range and potentially open up some of these fights with those first picks. you don't have a Zen that can do that, most likely you're going to struggle.
So self-sufficiency is being demanded from Zenyatta's more and more now. From the rest of the team, or your peelers theoretically, would spend much more time trying to dive. Now, Fearless, big hit there, getting discorded, and a salvo of orbs from Neko to take him down to about 40% of his health. Interesting, I thought Dia actually landed that flash, but Striker was able to recall away from it. Now he'll be harassed by Striker, who has an Orb of Harmony. It's going to be very, very hard for Dia to probably get the finish unless he has a flash. And Gamsu's down to Ado. This is great for the Dragons. Boston haven't had a look in on this map yet.
Not even close. The Dragons have dominated this thus far. The Fearless does use Primal Range, and Altering did use Valkyrie there, so it's a good opportunity for Boston, right? You can come in with an EMP, both support ults. Maybe you want to use that EMP at the beginning of the fight, before they have the opportunity to use that Transcendence or like a self-destruct and whatnot. So see how Mistakes uses it. EMP is the biggest ultimate for me on the table right now.
10 seconds until he would need to recall back. So to do that at any time, he might not want to engage. He steps onto the point. He'd like for Shanghai to clamp up a bit. He actually wants to draw them back to the point, all of them ideally, so he can get as big an EMP as possible. That doesn't actually happen, and Shanghai don't take the bait, so Mistakes has to kind of go again. With Altering out of the picture now, as long as he avoids the McCree Deadeye, Mistakes should be fine. Jaeger returns the fight around, and that's two. In fact, two and a Disu with that self-destruct. That means that Dia, Sky, and Ado can actually contest this in overtime and end up winning the round. Mistakes has to go for the EMP now, and no choice. And somehow the Dragons are pushed it back. Now it's up to Striker. He got Dia. He has to go one-on-one versus Ado on the point. But guess who's on the way? It's Fearless. Not too far from him. And now Striker can't commit. The Pulse Bomb is available for him, and he can use this one if he has to, but Fearless and Gegari are on the point, and they're standing tall. Very hard for Striker to get a look in at all. Kellex down, Pulse Bomb stick finds Dia. He's again removed from the fight, but they can't get there. The Dragons. Very nice turnaround on Ilios. That's what we want to see.
They did a nice job playing around the EMP, the Dragons. They didn't group up. They didn't give Mistakes a great opportunity to do it. They were holding on to it for so long. He has to use it at the end. He only connects with one player there with the EMP. So really nice game plan there for the Dragons.
Gegari's self-destruct. This turned it all around. Unbelievable. Kellex and Gamsu removed.
And the D-Man.
Oh, man. Fantastic play. And again, Ado was in a position where he had to try and hold the forward one-on-one versus Striker and wait for Fearless to get there. It's so interesting, right? Mistakes held that EMP for what, the whole round? Or close to it, and then was forced to use it in a less than optimal situation anyway.
And with Shanghai changing positions on the stage, what we have realized is Gegari, Fearless, and Ado do a nice job of playing aggressive, playing together. Maybe they're just going to have Dia play some of, whether it's McCree or 76 and really guard the backline. And then eventually, Gegari can just look at Sky's screen, right? Sitting next to the Zen and realize if he's getting pressured out and decide to go back.
Never talk about that much, It's kind of really interesting to bring that into the conversation. Dia's down. Neko, though, opens up the fight. You see, on Ilios, he actually has one of the highest final blows for Zenyatta's, which is pretty darn impressive. Continuing that trend by the looks of things, but Ado is causing big problems for the Boston Uprising, but he gets put on the hook. He gets removed. Now Dia again plays the dangerous game. One more scrap gun shot and he'd be dead, but Striker finished the job. This time Boston start off the round in charge of the points.
I feel like with this Orisa Roadhog combination, you're trying to get Shanghai to almost play dive composition into you, which would require one of these players of like Genji. Genji pretty good against Orisa and even Roadhog, where you can just farm a ton of ultimate, right? Just get behind the Orisa shield. Right now with McCree, what are you really getting out of it? You can't really pressure down any of these tanks. You can pressure down the shield, but then what are you going to do? Send your Winston in alone with the D.Va to just get chunked down by the Roadhog? Ooh! Oh, he pulls him actually the other side. He pulls him all the way across.
Because Gegari booped him away. Yeah. Gegari booped Note while he was trying to hook Dia into the pit, and that caused Dia to pull him too far. Love to see it.
Doesn't work out.
No, I mean, but it's still sick play, individually speaking. Mistakes then comes back and finds Sky and Gegari. And I think Boston definitely have the optimal setup here. McCree loves playing around these ranges, and when he has a shield, an Orisa shield in front of him, he has like a distinct upper hand in the fight. You mentioned it before, Matt. Gegari, Fearless, and Ado have to dive in, but there's just so much peel and protection. There's a hook, there's a halt, there's McCree's flashbang for Boston.
You could even, if you are really not concerned if you're Shanghai, and you could even play a far against
oh
this guy. Get the pick there early on a Kellex. That's a huge one. That's basically past the Orisa shield as well. I don't know how he's able to pull that off.
Have we not seen more of Sky in the past? It was brought over here recently, but this Zenyatta performance is just amazing. I mean, it's really hard to pick up a Mercy as it is. And that was in between a small gap in the Orisa barrier and the wall.
If you remember, they only played Sky really at the beginning of this stage, right? You
Oh,
know, he just gets your hook broken up there. Shanghai needs to touch the point. They do have a lot of ultimates to work with. It's just whether they can get here and combo him. Gamsu's getting close to a supercharger. That'll be huge for the likes of Mistakes and Note.
Strike, there's Neko again, he finds Dia. The other play's been excellent in this round, and now it's Boston's turn to really start to show it off. Mistakes finds Ado. Dia's brought back to life, but they're already missing their tracer, so they're always going to be one DPS down anyway. Deadeye, self-destruct, Transcendence, everyone's hitting Q very fervently at the moment, and the Striker and Gamsu fall. Gregory just nails these self-destructs. He's like Poco in stage 1. In fact, he's been more consistent than Poco has in this stage in terms of just those self-destructs, which have been good to see. And yet the Boston Uprising managed to recover. Gregory desuited, Mistakes really just kicking it now on that McCree. And it's a shutout now, but in the other direction, I mean, look at these stats, man. Striker's at 11, final blows, 2 deaths.
He's just insane.
Node had a sick round as well, 6 final blows and 3 deaths.
I would like to say it was a nice play from Shanghai. Dia actually uses the Deadeye and forces the players around the corner and basically forces them into Giguri's self-destruct. That's how she was able to pick up those 2 kills there. So it's a nice little combination of ultimates. Deadeye, don't really rely on it to get kills too much here at the professional level, more to just, you know, take positioning and force players out of positions. You saw a good use of it there.
I'm still raving about that. You know, Note hooks on towards Dia, wants to pull him into the pit. Gregory hits him, knocks him back, so now Note's actually looking left at the pit, which is where he ultimately drags Dia. So sick. But now, onto the final stage here, and yes, Dia's going to be on the Widowmaker. Mistakes as well. And this is that one map on Ilios that really hangs in the balance of which Widowmaker is hitting their shots.
This will be a test for Dia. He can come out on top here.
He definitely had one of the best Widowmakers of the preseason, Dia.
Well, I feel like as we talk about the level of Zen, I feel like as Widowmaker has been extremely important in the Overwatch League. Like, we have seen new Widowmakers come in and make a huge impact. Dia, the kill on a Striker and a kill on a Neko, that should be enough for Shanghai to get control.
Playing Widow v Widow definitely feels like a coin flip sometimes, right? If you're the Widow losing the battle or you're being forced to switch away from the Widow, it doesn't feel good. So Mistakes has to challenge Dia and vice versa. Only one of them can really come out on top here, but I just like how that's such an undertone to the entire round. We saw Pine last week, literally just shutting down his opposition in one play. It took about 3 seconds trying to get 3 headshots.
Well, now that Shanghai has the point, Dia can play this position, right? And just kind of play for these picks on the point. Doesn't necessarily need to challenge Mistakes, so to speak.
Fearless is down, but so is Gamsu. So both teams have traded out those Winston, and now the Infrasight is in place. So Mistakes can go hunting for Dia. He found Ado instead. That's a huge pick, possibly even a bigger pick now that teams are actually fighting on the point. It's super hard for Dia to get a look in here. In fact, he would have had to back away, and you can see him, he has.
That is one where Shanghai, you know, say we like their aggression. That's probably one where they didn't need to be as aggressive. They could have just allowed to play on the point, deny some sightlines from Mistakes.
Yep.
Let Dia kind of go to work on that Widowmaker, but now it'll be Boston control the point. Let's see how Shanghai decides to attack this. A nice body shot there from Dia.
Yep.
He'll use the Infrasight.
So now Mistakes has to be the one that kisses the ring for the moment. Although that Sky would have been a free kill if Mistakes had... Yeah, so interesting the play there. Sky goes very, very deep. Neko responds with a Transcendence of his own here. So they cancel each other out to a degree. Mistakes is looking right now. He's found Sky. He does fall to Dia, but the trade is probably worthwhile now. People are playing on the point out of line of sight of the enemy Widowmaker. Dia has to play aggressively now to actually get a proper look at the point. Striker staying scarce. Neko finds Ado yet again. This guy is doing so well. 5 final blows over the course of Ilios thus far, and Zenyatta definitely shining. Note's going to get desuited here, and you can see that, yeah, it won't be long for this world after he gets knocked down, and we'll see her over the top side. So Shanghai retake control, and now these two teams are really going neck and neck.
And it's Dia who's hitting a ton of shots, Mitch. 40% scoped accuracy, 30% crit hit accuracy. So landing a ton of headshots. A lot of the kills you see up by him in the kill feed with that red arrow, resulting in that headshot kill. Final blow is... If he can win the Widowmaker battle with Mistakes here, it's going to put them in a good position to take this point. They're already at 70%. They probably go up to, you know, 88, 89% by the time this fight's over.
Dia now will head off to the right-hand side. The standard spot to play when your team has control of the point. He doesn't use his Infrasight yet. He might not actually have the space to do so. Yeah, just being buffeted around now. A lot of pressure on him from Gamsu, and Gamsu's not going to leave him alone. The Monkey Menace KFC drives back to the point now, and in the meantime, Mistakes had found Gregory, who will be brought back to life. So Shanghai know who their star player is. Get her back on the field, but Striker removes her immediately. And you saw that Dia wasn't able to really participate in that fight at all. Mistakes had free reign.
And I usually like when when both Widowmakers have Infrasight, or when one of them pops it, I usually like the counter response of the other Widowmaker using the Infrasight as well, just because it makes
the playing field even.
Yeah, it makes the playing field even, not allowed to just kind of peek around these corners, be crazy. Maybe Dia doesn't use it because he's getting just bashed around by Gamsu. Gamsu can easily call that out.
And he can't capitalize on the Infrasight anyway while he's getting... Oh, there it is!
Not capitalizing on it there as well.
Nicely done. Yeah, Dia had Infrasight. He knew what Mistakes was going to be, and yet this man was quicker on the trigger finger. Dia's brought back to life, so we'll get a second bite of the apple, so to speak. Sky and Fearless are down. Neko getting both of them. Zenyatta really starting to kick it up here. Now Gregory desuited, pocketed, and dead. The streak here for Striker is this guy has just been up and down. That'll be the map. Boston Uprising will take Ilios, and hence they will take this series regardless of the result of our final map. But we still want to see it anyway, don't we, Matt?
Yeah, you did see Shanghai take a point there, just not enough on Ruins. They just get they'll push off the point there towards the end, not able to recapture with the Widowmaker. Nice shots there from Sky.
That was stunning.
Definitely like seeing him in this Shanghai roster.
Striker in the conversation for League MVP as well, still performing. 15 final blows, 4 kills for 21 eliminations. Boston looking strong. Shanghai taking it to him. Let's see what Map 4 has.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. And by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League.
The damage available. And Moira has so much ability to be able to just get away from players like Linkser on the Tracer. Now getting very close, building up the ult, and there it is.
Oh, okay, the coalescence coming out here. Jaehong's just giving the Houston Outlaws a good hosing down. Oh, they're clean indeed. But that push for a soul was nothing but dirty.
for Lurks just around the corner. And of course, for the Boston Uprising, it's a cherry on top. In terms of series, they already have matched New York's unbeaten streak, or their record they set previously in the Overwatch League, which was 12 in a row, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, as Boston obviously wants to get this 4-0. The map percentage, I know map differential is huge.
Puts them back to plus 13, I think, which is equal with NYXL below them.
Yeah, in terms of the overall stage in season, right? Because although they are undefeated, NYXL and the Valiant right behind them, both with only one
Snapping
loss.
at their heels.
Yeah. Even the Shock only 2 losses right now.
And you want that top spot, because like we said before, Matt, in this stage playoffs, the top team gets to choose their opponent.
Yeah, which is, it's gonna be interesting. I know as like a former competitor, if that was like available back in my day, when I played, I was selected by another team, that a team wanted to play me that bad, I would be pretty heated. I'd be going pretty hard after that squad. So
I've seen the Complexity versus TK video, Matt. I know you get heated, bro.
Listen.
Although your banter was like, yo, you are so bad, man. That's all you guys say. You're just bad. Listen. You're bad, bro. That's why you got dropped.
It's competition.
I love it. No, I dig it.
I actually, the funniest thing about that is that's when I was like a former coach, right? That's even after I was done competing.
You were looking very slim back then. Looked like a snack in the day, mate.
A little bit. So everyone's like, oh, you can't be mean to the other team, whatnot. And I'm like, it's competition. Things happen in game. What the fans don't see is that I went to dinner with the people on the other team right after that match. We had nothing wrong. We were talking about the game, having fun. Like, it's all in the game. It's all about the competition, right?
I think
the end result is to win, and you put everything else aside.
Here's what I'll say. You know, in the Overwatch League, I think teams prefer mostly to avoid the trash talk, and it would appear, to me at least, the fans prefer that as well. So that's fine. Maybe that changes over time. A lot of people have opinions.
I think it levels up with the playoffs, right? When they really get into those matches that have the money on the line and whatnot.
I think these teams are most often just more interested in spending time grinding and performing and winning, maybe, than sort of talking about it. But I love a bit of that trash talk. I miss that. I want more. I want Huck to come in here and tell me I have gold analysis. That'd be funny. Be true as well. Anyway, Shanghai Dragons on the attacking side, Matt. They've got the Widowmaker. So that's a start. Mistakes, though, is going to go toe-to-toe again.
We did see Shanghai put together a good defense on this map against the Florida Mayhem. Their offense was not as good, but Sky, we have seen some good things on the Zenyatta from him in this series. As I say that, he's dead. But it'll get res back up. The rest of the team jumps right back on towards him.
DNR's looking for a way to try and have a clean sight line that's unexpected from mistakes. It also doesn't mean he's going to get one clipped by a striker. So how do I get the upper hand against this enemy player when I'm kind of being pressured? There you go. Come from a bit of an unexpected angle. Grapple up the rock and see if you just get a split-second advantage. You get a look in right now.
A lot Dia's face right now. You see Striker in the back line. He'll take out Sky. Dia's trying to keep track of Striker as well. So trying to be the Widowmaker who's trying to keep tracks of the Tracer as well.
Keep track of the dirt now because he's been put 7 feet under, mate.
Yeah.
Neko did get resurrected. Sky also falling a couple times quite early here. Striker, actually, the man on your screen right now has done a very good job of removing Sky from these fights. So you'll notice Striker is the kind of player that won't fill up a kill feed with 7-man pulse bombs, but he will very much go deep and find those crucial picks. I mean, we talked about his statistics. He's second in final blows, eliminations, and second lowest in deaths in the league. So, I mean, the guy is, absolutely one of the best tracers in the world.
He kind of comes into the league with not a lot of
check your corner, Sky.
Expectations. Oh, there you go. That's a big kill. Well, when Striker goes that far in alone, you need to punish him for it. Those are the type of kills you need to come up with. It's a nice play by Mistakes. Lands a headshot, just peeks around the corner, finish Sky off. The assault rifle doesn't see too many Widowmakers.
Okay,
go with that.
You know what? That's what the Dragons need from Sky. Being able to be self-sufficient in that regard. That was very sharp, very well played, and you can't fault that. I'm telling him to check his corners. Looks like he did. So fair enough. I'll leave that humble pie. But Gamsu is taken down by a poison mine here from Dia. Brought back to life though, and this is again. Look, the Dragons are getting a pick, but struggling to really capitalize on it. They've won a couple fights in this part of the map, and the payload is still here.
Gigari will use herself to shine. Throws it over the top. That's just creating space for the payload to keep on moving. Oh, nice pulse on there from Otto. Kellex does a nice job just not killing anybody else besides himself, right? A lot of other players in that small corridor.
Yeah, I mean, we see it happens with Winston players. It happens with the best Winston players. You get pulse bombed and jump towards their mercy and die. Mistakes is going to try and get back in the Transcendence. He needed line of sight. Even if the effect on the ground, it looks like he's inside it. If he doesn't have line of sight to his Zenyatta, he can't get the healing. A Striker removes Dia from the fight again, and it sees Shanghai being forced off the payload. Ado now is on the back cat, that's smart. So Note now has to drop back and respond, while Striker deals with the bigger threat. Striker might actually have to help Note with Ado, and he gets himself that infra sight. So now that's been popped by Mistakes, he's coming back into the fight. Kellex, one man stole the payload. Ado's gonna chase him down. Great pulse bomb on Note though, but Gamsu's returned. So the Dragons are just missing margins, very small ones, and this is starting to resemble their map against the Florida Mayhem.
And they're probably not able to push that just because Gary didn't have her mech. If she has her mech, they're probably able to push it on through. Now she has her mech back. The bad side is the Striker's back in this fight. Dia, though, gets a big pick on the Mistakes, and Shanghai still moving this payload on forward. Looking very good to take point A.
Payload sliding through nicely down. The Dragons definitely brawl their way through that first point. Tough for them to have all 6 players up at any one time. There's Boston were constantly like a pack of hornets just picking one player at a time out of the lineup.
I will say, I think there is a noticeable difference with Sky in the lineup on the Zenyatta. I think definitely been able, at least if he comes out on top on like 1 or 2 of those Zen versus Tracer battles, it keeps Striker a little bit honest, right? Maybe he thinks, has a second guess about pushing into that back line a little bit deeper by himself, so.
I think he's, honestly, I mean, I thought Free Fuel, the first part of his series against the Mayhem was good.
Yes.
First maps were really good. And then, unfortunately, he went a bit invisible. So, that's the way it goes. Ado finds Mistakes and Fearless gets back, altering, pocketing the Winston all the way to the bank. Now with that Mistakes, the Uprising have to sort of play around that lack of Widowmaker here and need to respect Dia, who's got a lot of room to breathe.
Get Kellex low as he uses Valkyrie. They're going to use Transcendence as well. So this isn't bad for Shanghai. Both support ults used here by Boston. They know they have to put a stop to this moving the payload, but Shanghai will not slow down Mitch. They're going to have Valkyrie and Transcendence, and are looking very good to take point B as well. This will get Rez right back up, so D will be back in the fight. You'll have a full 6-person unit.
Now we're starting to get cooking with the Dragons. I'd be interested to see how the Boston Uprising actually, like, where they attack this from. I don't think they come in via the high ground. It's too easy to block with a Winston or a Diva, and you can sort of see, we get to see the wireframe of the Boston Uprising there. They're going to come through the low ground. Gamsu first, already chunked down to half health. Striker's trying to get a bit of space and work his way around the back, but Ado's finished off Mistakes, and Striker's down. Sky gets another one, nicely done. Neko deals with Dia, and at least the tanks are up for the Boston Uprising, and, well, I was going to say the healers, but they just lost both of them, and now it's going south for the winner, man. The Dragons now starting to spread their wings and make some progress, and they'll get towards that last stage of the map.
And the Dragons able to hold on to Transcendence through that as well, so you'll have this big ultimate yet again. Once the fight opens up, Dia has gotten the better of Mistakes in this Widowmaker battle. I wonder when Mistakes will switch over to potentially a Genji here towards the later half of the map. You've seen Boston have success when Dia's gone over to things like the McCree or the 76.
Forcing Dia onto 76. Usually you have to force him onto McCree first, and then he goes to 76. He rarely switches straight to the Soldier.
And if they want to play dive, Dia would have to switch to Tracer, and then you lose any, pulse bomb buildup you have on Auto as well.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, Matt. Trying to get Dia off this Widowmaker because it's doing too much with it. But Infrasight was there for Mistakes, and it's a very high value ultimate in terms of information. Dia, he does just get away from it. He rappels away from the pulse bomb. Striker takes a hit, glancing as it may be, and is having to flank around to the backhand side now.
Yeah,
He's a bit low.
Neko used Transcendence. Shanghai does a nice job of just backing on out here. As Fearless did use Primal Rage, push a few players back there for Boston, as Dia will take out Gansu. They'll res Sky back up, so you get the Zen back in as Auto connects to the pulse bomb on an Echo. Shanghai is going to keep moving this card here.
Shanghai looking far better now. It's almost as if they thrive in the chaos that these team fights create. Echo, oh no! I think he thought he could back away, but he was kind of stuck in that little nook. And that gave Fearless the kill. He's trying to get in between Kellex and his intended healing target, and it works, but it's not enough to remove Kellex. Ado is down. Kegari's the one on the payload right now, but Gamsu has a Primal Rage, and Fearless is looking for Mistakes. He took a hit, a big hit from Dia. Fearless gets in his face, and Dia then gets the second shot, definitely winning out that Widowmaker battle there for the Shanghai Dragons. Can the Uprising hold with 40 seconds left? Self-destruct from Gegari should be avoided by all and sundry. Altering leaps back into play to try and pocket Gegari as she tried to resuit. She gets back in the mech, which is big.
Yeah, they do get Altering though, so no Mercy healing. Sky falls as well, won't have Zen. Looks like it's falling apart here for Shanghai. Fearless is using the Primal Rage. They'll get a D-Mech on a Note. I wonder if Note will just go back to the spawn to switch off. They actually... Fearless doing some work there. This will get a Neko rezzed up, though. Now you're not going to have the main tank for Shanghai.
Yeah.
This last fight.
It went deep for it.
Staying alive so long. Now you're not going to have anybody there.
Infrasight is so strong for the Boston Uprising now for this last fight. It's going to be impossible for the Dragons to get the drop on Boston. They're going to be able to see everything the Dragons do and where they come from, which is just huge. However, the Dragons still deliver regardless, but Mistakes actually wins out the battle against Dia at the most crucial moment. There is a chance perhaps that Ultron can go for a Resurrector, but no, Gamsu drops in. He doesn't quite manage to interrupt the Resurrector. He's a second too late, and Dia is back in the fight. Self-destruct thrown into the back here, and you can see the Fearless Trump skidding through, but he's taken out of midair by Mistakes. Ado with a pulse bomb on a Gamsu, and Ado's still manning the payload for the time being. Sky, you can see he's sitting in the back, but Gegari was a big part of this strategy working out. She's desuited. Note's being pocketed right now, and he's still somehow in his mech, despite being discorded. And that's going to be it. The payload will advance no further for the Dragons. But I am liking what I'm seeing, especially up against the top team right now in Stage 3. The Dragons are hanging.
Yes, they get the payload very close to completing the map. Not close enough, though. I will say, they have looked much better coming out of the half with the seat change that they've done, moving some players around.
As significant as that may or may not be.
Yeah, we don't know if that's significant, right? I mean, and I think as Sky has come into the game after map 1, I think you've seen his play has been quite good. Let's see what they can do on defense here.
I wonder what we get from Boston Uprising this time around. Curiously enough as well, there was no interest in them playing Sombra defensively. They wanted to go Widow v Widow.
Which Dio was getting the better of for most of the map. It was just towards the end, from point B to point C, that's when you saw Mistakes start to come alive.
Well, realistically, it was actually that last Widow kill that was really the standout, because Fearless and Dio were both sort of stretching Mistakes around the map and making it hard for him to set up as that Widowmaker. But the fact that Mistakes comes in that last fight with an Infrasight is really good timing for him. He gets information very early on. He knows where Dia is going to come from, so it's very hard to sort of lose that. Well, it's very hard for Dia to win when his position is given away ultimately.
I like the defense from Shanghai.
Yes.
It's going to be aggressive, not going to try and play the Widowmaker, even though the Widow did work out for them.
I like me some speed, momentum, and violence.
Yeah, I think you're going to play, I think for Boston, you're going to play Mistakes on Widowmaker. We'll have Gamsu play, Winston Striker's going to play the Tracer here. Now they're just kind of messing around in the spawn. I would believe so. You never know. So, yeah, there you go. Okay, so Gamsu will play Roadhog. It'll be maybe the one thing that be a little bit of a difference.
Whoa, triple tank. Neko, come on! That would have been fun. I mean, Zaya is not great when you're fighting over like a low ground to high ground or vice versa.
And Gamsu changes. Potentially you could have ran double off tank here. We do see it from some teams when they're worried about a Sombra. Not really too worried about the Sombra here coming out from Shanghai. Fearless is hiding behind them around the corner. I don't think they know that.
No, they're not aware. And now he's going to spring the trap, and Gamsu might be the one that comes off second best. He was pocketed though. Like, Note's use of defense matrix to keep Gamsu alive there was just picture perfect.
And I think Gamsu actually may have been taken out there, but when Fearless goes to try and jump behind him, he actually hits the bridge, and he doesn't go all the way. He kind of just comes right back to the ground once he hits the under part of the bridge.
Ultraring's down. Sky's also missing. Striker now starting to run a riot on the backline of the Shanghai Dragons, losing both their supports. I mean, you just know what you're going to get from Striker. You know that he's going to get his way into the backline and consistently eliminate those targets. And you see what Neko can do. So we did on Numbani, constantly just wrecking Genji's trying to dive in the backline. It seems that Sky, every now and then he's going to get Striker, but 9 times out of 10, Striker gets in the backline and flaps him.
And what do you even do against him? I mean, he's so difficult to find. Otto will use Dragon Blade here. As Kellex will use Valkyrie, trying to keep everybody topped up. That'll be 2 kills, though, in favor of Shanghai. Only being able to bring one of these back. I mean, there goes both supports, so in the main tank for the Dragons.
Somehow Boston lose the first 2 kills of the fight and still manage to break back in a significant manner. Pulse Bomb on Gegari now in the self-destruct. Going to do too much to dissuade Boston from maintaining their position on the payload. Dia gets popped, Ado is down. And despite a good start to the fight from the Dragons, I mean, if you're Ado, you've got to be a little bit miffed about that. Getting a lot done early and still losing the fight.
I mean, he gets 2 kills, but effectively it's 1, considering Kellex can go up in the sky, wait the Dragon Blade out, and then get the res onto Neko.
back to Mount Olympus for a bit.
I mean, they gave up the supports though. I mean, they dove in, and when if you're going to give up your own supports, you need to get both supports on the other team. You didn't get Kellex, and he's able to res Neko, and then they're able to put down some more damage, some healing, and able to stay alive through it. You can trade supports. You just need to actually get the supports on the other side.
Kellex just got dove so hard, he doesn't know what postcode he's in anymore. Oh my lord.
Turn into a pancake.
Fearless and Geguru were up on that one, yeah. Blasted attack. And that Fearless also transitioned onto Neko. So that's just a really nice dive for the Dragons. Was that like a Gamsu level blind dive from Fearless? Or maybe he was checking Otto's screen. I don't know. Either way, potentially. They went straight over the building.
And I will say, Sky is being pressured by Gamsu. He uses Primal Rage, holds on to Transcendence, so he doesn't get panicked out. He's got Altering here to heal him on through it. They're able to hold on to that big support ultimate.
Striker take that away from no. That one got eaten. Gotta get up early in the morning if you're gonna get past the Frog Queen. That Striker's gonna drop down. Kellex gets taken down by Pulse Bomb actually, so Otto holding his, getting more value out of it. Sky using the Transcendence aggressively, and that just allows the Shanghai Dragons to barrel their way into the back line of the Uprising, and this time they will complete the fight.
It's so crazy with Kiguri's fast sensitivity, how she's able to just turn and use that defense matrix like in a split second. We've seen her eat so many pulse bombs thus far throughout her time in the Overwatch League. Like, playing on that high sense has to come in. A little bit of an advantage there.
In all fairness, Striker maybe gave her that second that she needed as well by sort of dashing over the top. Still, really good turnaround. She's going to self-destruct here as well. Otto is 16 final blows so far to this map, so he's been, half the time he's been smashing the backline for the Uprising. You can see the Boston don't like that either. They don't like when their supports get killed, but they've got some both support ultimates here, which may prove important. With Dia, they're playing quite a long way forward. Okay, I'm liking this.
Yeah, play aggressive. Right, once you get that first kill, try and push them back a little bit, maybe get another kill. Just stagger them for even longer. That's what you want to see from this Shanghai team. Mistakes is now forced off of Widowmaker, will play Genji here. So let's see how they react to this.
Otto and Striker are both, Otto has 16 final blows, Striker with 19, so both Tracers are matching each other in caliber so far over this map, which is a good prospect for the Dragons and also exciting in terms of keeping this one even. But Gamsu finds Geguri there, the way that she could have stayed alive in that suit. Sky is brought back to life, and he's very close to the Transcendence, so this might be it. Mistakes is trying to avoid him, stay alive. Oh, Sky, nicely done. He chased the Genji down. He took charge of that situation. Kellex now needs to try and break line of sight. Can they chase Dia? I don't think so. Gamsu gets snarled up on Fearless as he goes for the peel. It's back to payload duty. Striker returns to the fray as well.
And I think this is going to be a real test for Shanghai. Can they keep Dia alive when that push starts to come through? You see Gamsu chasing him. Gets discorded, and then a headshot right to him.
Okay, and remember, there's no other Widowmaker for Dia to worry about, providing Mistakes has been kept at bay. And, you know, Dia's playing on the high ground, so Striker can't really get to him. The guy's got room for days.
And you figure Shanghai has a fight win here with Transcendence, being able to use that, keep them alive. As long as they use it, you know, when that Dragon Blade comes through, they can't have it forced out. But Boston will end up having both support ultimates too, so. See here from Dia's POV, nice shot there on Neko. And Dia actually on screen actually takes Mistakes out at the beginning of this fight.
Yeah, so there you go. Now he's got 0 threats except for tank diving, which he can rappel out of.
They can't use Transcendence during this fight, Shanghai. Good. So they're picking up some kills here. This is what you like to see if you're a Dragons fan. Didn't have to use that ultimate. You need the Transcendence, and you need your Valkyrie as you know, both support ultimates and Blade will be online for the Uprising here.
This is
coming into the next
fight. This is the last fight as well.
This has been tremendous, yeah.
Shanghai could win the map here and now. That would be huge. Won't win in the series, but it's definitely a very good sign. And we'll see Dia now will be the man with the infra sight. So in the same way that Mistakes had intel early in the last fight of the first half of this map, Dia now has it himself. So he'll see where the trace is coming from. He'll see where Mistakes is going to be with that Dragon Blade. What a huge advantage to have.
Shanghai has used both their support ults here, mentioning you're going to have Transcendence and Blade for the Uprising. And here's the Blade.
Oh, Mistakes. Can he get towards Dia?
Dia's done a nice job down trying to get out, but he finally falls.
Yeah, Striker's fallen to Geguri though, so this one isn't, you know, open and shut at all. Self-destruct on the low ground there from Nodi, manages just to get back in his mech. Geguri not so lucky. She's now kicked out into the brutal outside world, and there's not much to be done for her. Ardo dancing around. Now Fearless returns to the payload, but he's immediately discorded, and Neko wants to fight. He wants to get aggressive, and the Uprising stay on the payload for now, but they are in overtime.
And Shanghai used both of those support ults at the same exact time. You hold on to one of them maybe a little bit longer. You have it to combat that blade.
Probably
you can stay
definitely
alive.
a little bit longer. I can't be happy with that.
No. So let's see how they try and get back onto this. They don't have any ultimates to work with. You have a big pulse bomb from Striker. Could end everything before it even begins.
I'd really love to see that fight broken down in detail, but we're gonna carry on here. Big Stick, Sky's been removed. Not that he had Transcendence anyway, but he's done so well even without his ultimate in this game. Just the fundamentals and the auto mechanics have been excellent. We were worried of a chance to use him in this fight. Striker's hunting for his next target. He sees the McCree and decides not to charge directly at him until he knows he's used the flash, which is now. Striker goes deep and still cops a glancing hit, but Boston will have that checkpoint now, and they can still win the map. They can turn this around. Dia can't get away quickly enough and is left upon. Altering suffers a similar fate.
Neko built his Transcendence so fast. He used the Transcendence for that previous fight, then comes in for the one that takes point B. He's able to use it yet again.
He's 25% faster on Transcendence generation than Sky is on this map.
No, I mean, you could see it there. I mean, Sky was at about 30% at the beginning of that fight. He already had another one. Neko's already up to, 24%. See how fast he's able to build that. Kellick's already with a Valkyrie. He'll use it to start.
Sky, good response from Ultron there. You can see the Mercy Beam, but it's not enough. Ultron went down to mistakes with the Dragon Blade and he came through, and Dia, he was channeling High Noon somewhere, but no one really cared to look. And then Gamsu and Note and Co were able to chase down. Gamsu might, start moonlighting as a bouncer here as he looks towards the spawn doors to try and prevent the dragons from getting out. Gamsu has the Primal Rage, so, moving the dragons out of the positions they want to be in is going to be potentially devastating to them in this last fight.
And they need to have Neko get this Transcendence. That's kind of going to be their win condition. They have to fight through the Valkyrie, which they're able to get a kill early.
I mean, what happens when he forced Dia off the Widowmaker map? We talked about it. His McCree has struggled. He's died twice now in the last two fights at the start. Neko's been removed by Ardo. Fearless comes up against Kellex here. Good response from the Dragons. They can still win the match here and now, but Gamsu has the Primal Rage. Transcendence in over the point. Gamsu's low, looking for his next target, or his peel, perhaps. Altering is out of the picture, though. Didn't have a Valkyrie available, but could have had the Resurrect. Geggery finds Gamsu. Mistakes on towards Dia. It's getting close. Overtime's ticking down. Shanghai could have this one here and now. Kellex knocked off the payload, and the Transcendence desperately brought onto the point now. 3 players for Boston. Mistakes. Another Dragon Blade. Are you kidding me? In the same fight, even. He charges off. Striker's trying to push it home. Neko gets landed on, and Striker is down. Note removes Fearless. And Mistakes gets removed by the Moira. Altering comes in, gives him the big slurp, and doesn't allow him to use the rest of his Dragon Blade. Now it's time for the Reaper. Dia comes in. Gamsu's removed. You can see there's the pulse ball, and Kellex, he never got there. And the Dragons win map 4 of this series on Route 66. Good to see them pick up a map in a series that otherwise was a tough one for the map.
And you see the potential that Otto has. The DPS player in the Overwatch League. Mitch, 47 limbs, 23 final blows, only 6 deaths. It was kind of toe-to-toe with Striker there. Puts up just as good of a game. The Dragons get a map which could be extremely important, in terms of Boston stage 3, right? The dropping a map here to the Dragons could put them behind NYXL, the Valiant, in case of tiebreaker scenarios in terms of map differential. Could be huge.
Yeah, in a world where Boston do drop a map this stage, a series this stage, then that will be a concern. They now go to +12 in map differential, and New York below them in seconds is actually +13. However, of course, Boston haven't lost the series yet. That's going to be very, very important. We're looking pretty pleased here, and Shanghai getting that map, definitely a crucial one here. And an interesting way to start off map 4. I think we're seeing big improvements in a lot of this aggression from Shanghai. See here some of those moments. Ardo at the 4, Sky with some excellence in the Ardo play. Geggery has always been stellar. We hope to see more from Shanghai, even here in stage 3. We'll see you guys after the break. We're going to break things down in just a moment.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. And by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network.
Hello and welcome back, everyone. This is Zoe, and I am honored to now finally have him next to me, the president of gaming from the Boston Uprising. Please give it up for Huck. That's your cue. There we go. All right. So, President, your team is still undefeated this stage. What is giving those guys the edge?
A lot of luck, to be honest. We have had a lot of close matches, you know, 3-2, 2-1, even this match 3-1 against Shanghai. I feel like we're playing pretty well and we're getting better, but at the end of the day, I think all the teams are getting closer, and a little bit of luck has helped.
All right. Well, luck is always a good thing to have on your side, and you certainly have that. So let's hope it continues in that fashion. Now, since I have the president with me, I want you to shed some light onto the inner workings of your team, the Boston Uprising. How many people are actually working with the players on a day-to-day basis, and what are they doing?
We have 5 staff. So not including me, we have Krusty, our head coach. We have Shake, his assistant coach, used to be an ex-pro. Minnie, also assistant coach, and then our analyst, Bleeple. We all kind of share responsibilities. I would say Shake's kind of like the macro, you know, high decision-making strategy guy. Krusty works with the Korean players obviously a lot, and day-to-day operations. And then Minnie's kind of our no guy. You know, he's French, very strongly opinionated, so he's always ready to challenge ideas and kind of, you know, make us at least be diligent.
So a lot of people working off camera, behind the scenes, loving it. Now, looking ahead at the matches you still have coming up, is there any team who can stop that winning spree?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think both LA teams are really strong right now. Our scrim results are relatively close, so I think they have a really good shot of, I guess, ending that streak. Dallas Fuel can't be slept on. I mean, we're a little happy that Effect's taking a break, but it is what it is. I still feel like they have a lot of talented players, and you know, any team can be scary right now. So we're just trying to do our best, win every match, and you know, take it from there.
All right. Well, we can't wait to see more of your team on stage. Huck, President Huck, thank you so much for taking the time to have a quick chat with me. We're now heading to the desk to break down the action.
Thank you so much, Zoe. With that win, Boston sets the Overwatch League record of most maps won at the start of a stage. That is now 7-0 here in Stage 3. It was a 3-1 victory, though. They lost the final game. Let's go to Ilios, though, because this was a map that we saw Shanghai on last week. They were able to get a big win. We were wondering, is Control going to be the game mode that they are able to take from the Boston Uprising? It was looking close after this first stage. Guguri hitting some massive bombs.
Yeah, big clutch potential again is something that we always talk about with these self-destruct plays, and it was very, very good showing from Shanghai to begin with, but then Boston, again, they bring out these strategies that definitely play to all of their strengths. You know, we saw the Orisa Hog coming out on Well in particular, using the abilities to really get those environmental kills, and it moves over to Ruins, and essentially Dia and Mistakes are engaged in this Widow duel the entire time, and it seemed like essentially the team play of Boston definitely helped with Mistakes getting the upper hand in a lot of those head-to-head duels.
Subbing in Sky at the halftime, I think, had a pretty big impact across both of these maps. He was coming out with some pretty clutch 1v1 plays. I think Striker as the series went on, got more and more bold, and it was good from Sky to put him in his place and make sure that those mistakes or kind of overextensions do get punished occasionally. A nice headshot there as well. But Boston Uprising, I think, let their foot off the gas pedal a little bit as they came into Route 66 and only realized later on that the Shanghai Dragons had set a really good time, or really good distance, in fact, and it would take some catching. Then by that point, Shanghai were already ready to shut it down.
It's kind of amazing because Shanghai was almost stopped short of that second point. They're able to clutch up, force it towards that point C. But I was impressed by the defense, and you saw Diaz switching over to the Widowmaker. He had a lot of success on that second point, not so much towards the end of the game on the McCree, but he's staying with the hit scan. You're looking at Shanghai. We know Addo's greatest strength is probably the Genji. We know Diaz on the hit scan. Is there anything else you want to see from the DPS from this squad moving forward?
When we were looking at Numbani and seeing Addo's big Dragon Blades come out, I think part of your point that you brought up at halftime, where the Dragon Blades weren't getting all that they could, is that when Dia's on the Tracer, I think there's still a language barrier there. He's not quite being able to follow up with them at the right times. Normally, you'll send your Genji in one direction, your Tracer in the other, you try and get a collapse, and the dive works like that. And so I think Dia does have a lot of talent. It's about weaving him into the system and maybe working on some of that communication.
Yeah, so a big reason as well. I'm glad you mentioned about Addo getting a lot of value. Well, not too much value out of his Dragon Blades, but towards the end of Route 66, we saw that they did end up taking the win. Shanghai Dragons getting the win in no small part to Addo himself on that Tracer role. And again, a large part of this does come as well into the fact that maybe Boston did take the foot off the gas. I think, you know, I think that's probably a kind way of putting it. I think it was a bit disrespectful, to be honest. You saw Striker making a lot of plays that he wouldn't normally make. But look at his stats here. 5 deaths to his name on Addo. A lot of final blows onto the support backlines. It's very clear that Boston really weren't taking him as seriously towards that tail end of that map.
And after seeing those numbers, I said earlier, Otto's looking best when he's on Genji. Do you want to see him on Tracer more?
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever favors the composition. So again, I prefer to see Shanghai Dragons sort of trying to play and tailor strategies towards the teams they're playing, which we have been seeing to a degree. I mean, you said at the start as well, Sideshow, you wanted to see Shanghai Dragons play a bit more aggressively against Boston. I mean, we've seen a bit of that, but again, it's still a long ways to go before we start to see them really step up a little bit and start to contend with some other teams in the Overwatch League.
Shanghai is still chasing their first match win. Boston sets the record at 7-0 here in Stage 3, and in no small part due to their player of the match, sponsored by Omen by HP. Neko, the support player, keeping everybody up while dishing out the damage on that Zed.
Yeah, he's a fantastic player. Again, a guy that we sort of underrate in a lot of sense because it's hard to see the impact he has when Boston play in this passive play style. Very much at the back quite often.
Well, when they go on their aggressive dives, when by the time they've already set up their kind of slow part of Boston, when they dive, they often leave Neko pretty far behind. And so it's, you know, the focus is on their aggressive tendency. But he's off in the back, fending people off. I think that he's probably, I would have him as the 3rd best Zenyatta at the moment, just behind Jonak and Badoshin of the London Spitfire. But I think Neko's definitely contending for like one of those top spots, as is the rest of his team. He's a very powerful Zen in that position.
Solid stuff from Neko today. Boston gets the win, but that's just the first match of 3. When we come back, it's arguably the match of the week, definitely the day. The Valiant will be taking on the Houston Outlaws. You don't want to miss it after this.
Your technique is fine.